Hi, welcome. In this video, we're going to talk about the components of stimulation within the CONAF psychological framework. So stimulation is a natural need that we all have, and the origin of stimulation is for survival, right? Imagine if we weren't safe and protected in the civilization that we have now, that back when our ancestors were living in the forest or jungle or whatever and competing with other animals for survival, then our mind our mind back then is always constantly on alert, right? Like looking at like danger and is this safe to eat and where can we store food and where's a good place to get water, right? So stimulation is a natural part of survival as our perception and sensation of what's going on and how do we survive, how do we outcompete the environment, other animals and other people, right? So stimulation is a natural part of survival. So in a sense, if you are blessed and privileged, then maybe you don't have to worry about those things, right? Maybe you don't need to stress about how to survive and whatnot. And with that blessing and privilege comes the curse of boredom, right? Now I'm bored. Now I don't have anything interesting going on. Life is so boring, like, right? And when that happens, your mind is now craving some sort of stimulation to make up for the loss of, trying to fight to survive. And thankfully, in our modern time, there are a lot of different ways to stimulate our mind, right? If you look at a kid, like the easy way now is just give a kid an iPad, right, or like a smartphone, and the kid can spend hours and hours on that iPad looking at different clips or different gaming or whatever, right? So that is a stimulation, and when your brain is so used to constant stimulation, right, that becomes its own baseline, and then you're not used to boredom anymore. Like, oh no, my iPad ran out of battery. Now I'm bored, and now that boredom feel like I think in the body like such an egregious crime, right? Like I'm bored, and now my body is like I feel heat, I feel itchy, right? And now become like a really big thing. So that's why I feel like it's important to recognize the blessing and the privilege of being bored versus just struggling to survive, right? And then with that privilege and blessing, learn to be okay with boredom, right? Because when you learn to sit with boredom, then maybe you can learn to be creative, right? Like creativity, and maybe other stimulus can come to your mind, right? And we talk about that later. And yeah, so then for older adults, right? Movies, music, video games, athletic stuff, right? Dancing, any of those things is a source of stimulation. Books, reading, and so those things can stimulate your mind and get rid of boredom, which can be a good thing as long as you don't overdo it, right? As long as now your entire life is now just chasing after like some sort of stimulation and neglecting the other components of your circle, and so the good stimulation can be I'm interested in philosophy, right? Let me read books in philosophy and debate with people and talk things out. I'm interested in spirituality, right? I'm interested in scientific studies, and now my career as a scientist is actually like playing into my sense of competence, my career to make money, to make sure I'm safe and secure, my sense of affirmation that, hey, I am, a part of my affirmation is being a scientist. It feeds into my stimulation, like, oh, when I go to my workplace, my mind is stimulated with like new ideas and new theories and new philosophy, right? So for me, like, because I do love philosophy and psychology and spirituality, like this to me is stimulation, right? And it's feed onto itself, right? And that's why I'm making these videos. That's how I come up with the CONAF psychological framework, right? That's how I come up with the one that's moving, right? Because to me, like, that's what my mind naturally gravitates forward. That, I'm just like constantly thinking about these things, right? And it's, so every person can have their own sense of stimulation. It can be like creative, right? You are a creator is a creative thing that you're doing, or you can be a passive consumer. You're consuming things, right? Well, I mean, whatever, right? But be careful that you don't just over consume and neglect your outer circle, which goes to the big thing about stimulation, is that when your circle is fractured, especially the primary three or the foundational three, sense of safety, security, affirmation, and competence, if those three are fractured and you don't have the courage and the honesty and the help to really process those, then stimulation become a low-hanging fruit to run away to and neglect the fractured CONAF, and now you're addicted, right? Now you're addicted to a stimulation as a distraction from the pain, from the fracture of your CONAF. So let's say if you're struggling with PTSD, or you feel unloved and unvalued, or you feel incompetent, right? Instead of like really taking time to address those things, now you're like, oh, let me just run off to stimulation and use drugs, right? Because when I have negative emotions coming up about any of those three things, and of course I'm not used to negative emotion, I don't like negative emotion, so let me run away from my emotion by using the drugs, right? Now the drugs, it gives you a temporary high along with a distraction from the pain, right? But now you're chasing. Now that's your coping strategy. Oh, I have negative emotion, run off to drugs. I have negative memory, run off to drugs. I don't feel good, run off to drugs, right? And then now you're chasing after a high as a distraction, and then over time your body builds a tolerance, a dependence on it, and then you might, and with dependence, if you stop using it, now you have withdrawal effect, right? You have withdrawal effect from it. And when you're addicted to drugs, right, it becomes its own problems, right? So now you're neglecting, focusing on your career for safety and security, focusing on relationship with people, focusing on mastery and training and competence, right? And even worse, you might be stealing money from loved one, right, to fund your drug addiction. So then now you're destroying it even more, and so then the chase after stimulation can destroy your CONAF even further. Another one could be video games, right? Video game is insidious in the sense that it can, in a way, fulfill your circle, right? I mean, I guess temporarily, mentally, you feel safe, right, in that dimension, that universe, whatever the universe the game is in. Especially if it's an online game, you might get affirmation, right? A social game, you get affirmation from the other online players, right? Assuming they're not toxic and competitive, right? You get a sense of competence. Oh, I am good, I am competent, I'm a good player. You might even get a sense of superiority. Oh, I am really good at this game. Right? I spent hours on this game, and this is my level and my gears, right? And my achievements. Stimulation, right? My mind is stimulated. Even meaning and purpose. Oh, there's a meaning, right? There is. I just need to get to this level, this achievements, this next goal, right? And so then video game can be an insidious way to fulfill your need, instead of you actually focusing on your CONAF in real life, like, hey, how do I make sure I'm safe and secure? You know, what career do I have? Like, what job do I have? How can I bring in the income to make sure I can pay for the services, right, and the products? Should I work on relationship with my family and friends, develop my competence, right? What is my sense of superiority? Is it my character? You know, those kind of things. So video game, or even gambling, right? Gambling can be, you know, a high of oh, you know, I feel horrible, so let me run off and gamble and like chase after that high and forget about everything else. You know, back in the day, like maybe even sell my house or like, you know, like put out my children or even my wife, right? So that kind of thing. And so stimulation can be, you know, it is a basic necessity of human need, but how are we employing it, right? Is it helping us to be better, to develop our intelligence and skill set and awareness and knowledge with hobbies and interest and passion and authenticity and dedication? Or is it a distraction from pain, including, you know, let's say you are struggling with depression, and maybe the stimulation of cutting yourself is a stimulation that makes you feel alive, right? That distract from the physical pain, distract from the emotional pain. It makes you feel less numb, it makes you feel alive, right? So, you know, stimulation can be as insidious trap, right? So be very careful how it's done. And in terms of healthy stimulation, like one good way to think about it is if you learn to meditate, right? If you learn to meditate and quiet your mind, and you learn to listen to your body, you learn to appreciate the natural sensation and beauty of the present moment, right? There's a lot of stimulation that you can sense in the moment. You know, like how am I feeling now? What sensation am I feeling? What emotion am I feeling? What's going on in my environment, right? So if you learn to sit with yourself and meditate, that in itself is a good sort of stimulation. And once you learn to quiet your mind, right? Quiet your mind and sink beneath the storm, the wave of the ocean, and sink beneath it to reach a level of stillness, right? To remove the chatter and witness your mind as this like moving clouds, right? Shifting clouds and not getting attached to thoughts, right? If you can do that, that's your stimulation right there. So, you know, and there'll be other videos about like meditation too. But yeah, so that's stimulation. Be careful what you're chasing after for stimulation. Is it helping you to fulfill your CONAF better, or is it distracting from the pain, and now you're addicted, right? Addiction. So yeah, so be very careful on how it plays out. And yeah, that's stimulation. Feel free to leave comments, you know, and any question, engagement, discussion, you know, we all learning together, right? So yeah, so that's stimulation, and see you in the next video.